Hi guys, Aaron Dorr here, policy advisor with Wyoming gun owners, with an update for everybody who's asking us about the Second Amendment Preservation Act. If you didn't hear about this was a bill that was voted on and was defeated, but was voted on this session in the Capitol, and an awful lot of moderates right now are trying to prop themselves up as being pro-gun stalwarts because of their vote on this bill. I'm talking Representative Newsome, we're talking about Paxton, all of these hyper moderates who we are exposing with these whiteboard videos and all the rest of our digital ad program are running for cover. And the cover that they're using is House Bill 118, the Second Amendment Preservation Act that was voted on this year. So this video is going to be the full story, front to back, on the truth about this year's Second Amendment Preservation Act. We're going to toss down some names. Might make some of you upset. That's okay. We're okay with that. We're going to give you guys the facts. You can decide who's telling the truth and who's not. So, first things first, we first heard about this SEPA legislation before session began. Now, I've worked in the fight for gun rights in 5 states for the last 12 and a half years, and so we know a lot about cover bills. And a cover bill is a bill that is designed to do little or nothing on a public policy standpoint, but to do a lot to protect politicians. You usually see a cover bill, and this applies to all kinds of issues. By no means, it's not just guns. But you usually see cover bills in an election year, right? Pretty obvious. It's an election year. Everybody wants something to campaign on when it comes time to face the voters. And that was exactly what happened this year. We first saw House Bill 18 a couple days before session began. And we met with the bill sponsor, Mark Jennings. I did personally the opening day of session, talked to him about it. We talked about it by text before session began, and then in person the opening day of session. And I explained to the sponsor, Mark Jennings, I said, Mark, this bill is impotent at best. It will not provide any public policy benefit to gun owners, but I can see how it's going to be used to protect a whole bunch of moderates all across the state. And Mark made it clear this bill was not going to proceed. He was going to file it for some friends who asked him to file it, and that was going to be the end of it. Now, whether that was true or not, I'm not going to get into that, but he told me it wasn't going to move because he could see the problems that we had with this bill. I'm going to stop here for a moment on the political side and dive into the policy side. You see, the problem with this year's bill, House Bill 118, impotent because it had no enforcement capabilities. So if you read the bill, and I have a copy here in my hand right now, what it is designed to protect is good. Infringements on your gun rights, owning guns, ammunition, accessories, that part was fine. But the problem with the SEPA concept has always been, how do you actually enforce it? And here is what was left on the last page of this bill. I'll read it verbatim. It's about 4 lines. Bear with me. It shall be the duty of the Wyoming Attorney General, courts, and law enforcement agencies of this state to protect the rights of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms within the borders of Wyoming and protect these rights from the infringements described under subsection A of this section. So it sounds pretty good, right? The courts have to intervene and protect our gun rights. But see, because I do gun politics in so many states, I know this language is 10-year-old language. And the truth of the matter is that the way this is written, there's going to be virtually no enforcement of SEPA legislation because it relies on the Attorney General to get off his butt and do the right thing. And everybody in Wyoming knows, or you should know, that the AG's office has never been a friend to gun owners. Going back years and years ago, it was the Wyoming Supreme Court and the Attorney General's office who pursued a case with the Supreme Court that made it clear in case law that there is no inherent right to keep and bear arms here in Wyoming. The AG's office got that part accomplished. Just a couple months ago, much more recently, much more relevant to today, it was the AG's office that tried to get stand your ground law overturned here in Wyoming, appealing multiple lower court decisions when it comes to stand your ground law. The AG's office has never been a friend to gun owners in Wyoming, not in the past and not right now. Thank God the Supreme Court here in Wyoming ruled correctly on that case, but the AG's office and the whole system was trying to overturn it. So what this bill would do is trust in the good graces of the AG's office and all the political pressure that blows in Cheyenne. It would trust on those guys to do the right thing. That's insanity. That's stupid. Everybody knows that would never happen. That's why we call it a cover bill. There would be no enforcement of this year's SEPA legislation. None. And I warned the sponsor about this, and I told him this is going to have the support of all the moderates in the Capitol who we're all concerned about. And I'll just read off the vote count, and you can decide for yourself if this is a cover bill or not. This is February 27 of this year at 11:42 a.m. Listen to some of the names that voted on this bill. Wanted to get their name in the yes box, to check that box. The hyper moderates: Representative Barlow, Representative Crank, Representative Furphy. Dan Furphy is the guy who wants to put you in jail for 3 days if you don't go through, for 6 months if you don't wait 3 days to buy a handgun. But he voted for this. Representative Guerrier, one of the worst, voted for it. Henderson, don't get me started. Speaker Harshman, he is the definition of the swamp. He voted for it. Dan Kirkbride, a co-sponsor of gun control bills here in the state. Larson Lloyd, terrible on guns, terrible on anything conservative, basically. Representative Newsome, one of the gals who is using this bill now as cover in her primary election. Representative Obermuller. This is the entire list of the biggest swamp monsters. Representative Paxton. Of course, he's also using this vote right now very publicly in his race to try to buy cover. Representative Pelkey. Representative Pownell. Representative Pownell is the sponsor of Fix NICS legislation here in Wyoming. He sponsored the bill, pushing for a lower version of red flag gun seizures. But this bill was so weak, even he could support this. Representative Walters. I mean, you have a bunch of Democrats in here. In fact, let's see here, Dayton Selman voted for it. Let's see, Pelkey. I'm just skimming here really fast. A third of the House Democratic caucus voted yes on this bill. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, isn't that the goal, Aaron? Don't we want to get more people to vote yes on gun bills? We do if we're getting them to vote yes on bills that provide actual policy benefit to gun owners. For example, the Stand Your Ground law we passed in 2018. We didn't even have this many Democrats and moderates voting yes on that bill. Think about that. Fewer people voted yes on Stand Your Ground law despite all of the pressure that WIGO brought to bear in that fight. Fewer Republicans and Democrats voted yes on that bill than we have on this year's Second Amendment Preservation Act. That is absolute proof that this bill was so weak. The Democrats knew it wouldn't do anything to protect your gun rights. The moderates knew it wouldn't do anything to protect your gun rights. That's why all of these names are on here as yes votes. Don't trust me, Google it. House Bill 118, the vote was February 27 of this year, 11:42 a.m. You can see it for yourself. So the entire thing, there's no enforcement capability. It's impotent because of that. That's why we call it a cover bill. So you say, okay, so what should it have been? What should be in there? Well, much to Senator Ogden Driscoll's anger, I work in a bunch of states. I've always been very proud of that. I worked a lot this year, particularly in Missouri, on behalf of the Missouri Firearms Coalition. And Missouri also introduced a Second Amendment Preservation Act this year that I helped author. The Missouri SEPA bill number was HB 1637. You can see it for yourself. This is the quintessential definition of a bill with teeth. This bill has the same protections, it covers the same aspects of guarding our gun rights as the Wyoming bill, but we had so much teeth in here, it made the liberal media outlets scream from Arkansas to Iowa. This bill would allow you to, as an individual, if the state violated your gun rights, if they broke the SEPA law, This would allow you, as the individual gun owner, to sue the government officials who were involved in violating your SAPA rights. So if a police department, let's say St. Louis for Missouri, or say Cheyenne here in Wyoming, if one of these liberal cities decided to say, screw it, we're not going to obey SAPA law, we have a new Democratic president, there's an AR-15 ban, go out there and grab the guns. You would be able to personally sue the officers, the mayors, the department heads, any government official who decided to break the law. You wouldn't have to wait for the AG. You wouldn't have to wait for the courts. You wouldn't have to wait for the governor. You could simply take them to court yourself. The next part of that enforcement capability was because covered the issue of qualified immunity. We would strip anti-gun law enforcement officers of qualified immunity so they could be subject to judgments. Any officer who knowingly, and this is a key part, knowingly violated SAPA law would lose their ability to be a police officer in Missouri for the future. And number 4, if you won in court, all of your legal fees and court costs would be covered by the government entity that violated your rights in the first place. This is a SAPA law with teeth. Missouri's SAPA law was a joke. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Wyoming's SAPA law was a joke. And everybody in the Capitol knew it. You can look at it any way you want. The policy was terrible. The folks who voted for it, proves the point. The policy difference between Missouri and Wyoming highlights the weakness of this bill. And the fact that right now, Representative Sandy Newsome, Representative Paxton, and presumably a whole bunch more are hiding behind this year's SAPA vote as a reason for us to forget about all of the rest of the gun control bills they have supported, or the pro-gun bills they refuse to support, is just proof positive they are trying to play gun owners for suckers. And that's why I hope you guys will be aware of these facts and share this video across the state, because it is essential that gun owners know this was a cover bill. This was a disaster. So badly that WIGO, in the waning days of session this year, came out with videos in opposition, publicly opposing this bill, publicly opposed to it. So again, I want you to take a moment, think that through. Any questions you have, post them in the comment section beneath this video. We'll answer them hopefully every couple of hours. We'll check back here. But this was a unholy alliance involving a whole bunch of hyper moderates, House Democrats, some of the worst swamp monsters in the state, and some good people. And that question comes up. Well, Aaron, are you saying the bill sponsor is a bad guy? Are you saying that all the rest of the pro-gun folks who voted for this were bad people? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that some of these people were willingly played for fools by swamp monsters and Democrats who wanted a cover bill. They got what they wanted. The proof is in the pudding right now. If you look at the election, the campaign rhetoric of candidates like Newsome and Paxton. That's the truth. That's what happened. WIGO is happy. WIGO is happy that that bill did not pass in 2020. It gives us a chance to pass a real SAPA bill in 2021 and years that follow. We will always fight to the death for pro-gun legislation, but we will never be party to a backroom deal that provides cover to weak-kneed moderates who are trying to attack our gun rights. Thank you very much, guys, for your time. Share this video and visit joinwygo.com to get involved today.